Well, 2 years have passed since the Hamas attack on Israel. That attack killed 1,200 people. It saw 250 taken hostage, according to Israeli media. Israel says as of Saturday, 48 hostages remain, 20 of whom are alive. Now, the attack led to Israel's invasion of the Gaza Strip. And this morning, as you've been seeing and hearing on national news already, there's quite something set up in that festival park, right? To remember all the people that were lost there. There's these life-size images of the victims of that day, and people are gathering there to remember. That attack resonated, of course, all around the world, and including here where we live. My next guest is Emily Kalo. She's been on the program before to talk about this. She's an Israeli-born citizen. She lives in Winnipeg. She's a student over at the University of Manitoba. Thanks very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
What went through your mind when you were waking up today on this, significant anniversary?
It brings you right back to October 7th, 2023. You woke up thinking everything was normal. It's actually on October 7th, 2023, it was Simchat Torah, which is a Jewish holiday where we recognize we're restarting the Torah. We just had our high holidays, our New Year, and it's supposed to be a joyous celebration. And then just seeing the headlines, seeing pictures of people you knew who hadn't been heard from, who were missing, who you spent days trying to figure out if they were alive or murdered or held hostage. So it's a heavy morning. I think that the importance of it and the weight of it isn't lost.
What are you hearing today from your family back in Israel?
I think that they're still going through trauma. This continues to be a traumatic event that no one thought that an attack like that, an attack of that scale was possible or would happen again. We grew up with grandparents who told us about the Holocaust, who were Holocaust survivors, and we never thought we'd see a scale destruction of Jewish people like that ever again. So I think that it shook a lot of our realities. It shook our sense of safety. And for Israeli citizens, they are dealing with with the real trauma of that, while also not really being able to heal from it. There's still 48 hostages in Gaza. There's a war raging that we know is causing immense trauma for everyone. So they're struggling, put blankly.
Last week, as you know, there was an attack on a synagogue in Manchester in the UK. How is that attack resonating here and impacting yourself and the wider Jewish community that you would engage with?
Yeah. I think we're all scared. We had to have a lot of serious conversations leading up to the high holidays about how to show up and how to make sure that we could do so being safe, and to know that that wasn't the case in Manchester, that I went to synagogue on the high holidays. So the fact that there's people in Manchester who did the exact same thing and didn't come home for doing nothing other than going to their place of worship is frightening. And I think that all of us are looking for some serious response from not only the government in the UK and making sure that they're holding themselves accountable and creating a higher standard of safety, but also for us here. We want to know that we're safe and that we can continue to worship and not be fearful of continued persecution.
You have friendships with Palestinians, both in Israel and here in Winnipeg as well. How has your relationship changed or shifted, if it has, over the past 2 years? What's it been like?
I mean, it definitely has. I think we've had to have some serious, honest, and candid conversations about where we're coming from, what our positionalities are, how we're feeling. But the reality is that all of that, and something that I wish that more people not directly involved in the conflict understood, is that we have a lot of points of connection and humanity. At the end of the day, we're both coming from communities who are seeking safety, seeking refuge, who want a prosperous future. And Hamas is ultimately the enemy of both of that. Hamas is the one who waged the attack on October 7th. Hamas is the one who continues to put Palestinians in danger. So those conversations have been difficult, but I've been really fortunate that those conversations have been rooted in a shared idea that we're coming from a place of humanity and that we share humanity. And I wish that more Manitobans, Canadians, and more global citizens could have those same conversations.
Have you lost any friends? I'm just curious because I know that as I've watched Manitobans just bird's eye view having conversations on social media, and it's interesting to have watched the trajectory where some people are walking away from each other.
Unfortunately, I don't know a Jewish person who hasn't lost a friend with October 7th. Not only were we dealing with the trauma and mourning, and all of us knew someone So dealing with that personal loss, but also we saw and we continue to see a significant rise in historic anti-Semitic tropes. I had many people suggest to me that, women were not sexually assaulted on October 7th, that it was actually a conspiracy, that Jewish people are responsible and that they're controlling the news. These tropes that we heard in 1938, we're hearing again. So unfortunately, I lost a good amount of friends, and I think a lot of people did. I thought that the difference between my experience in the deadliest day of Jews since the Holocaust would be different from my grandparents in the sense that communities would support us. And while some have been staunch allies, others have not. And that was a really unfortunate reality and a disappointing realization.
Obviously, we've been hearing this week about the indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas taking place in Egypt. What do you think needs to happen for the war to come to an end?
I think Hamas needs to be dismantled. That simple. The hostages need to come home. Hamas needs to be dismantled, and the Palestinian people in Gaza need to be given a government that can self-authorize, that can self-govern, and that can actually give them a safe and prosperous future, which they deserve. I'm optimistically cautious and hopeful that we won't be celebrating or commemorating this in next year, that we'll have a peace deal and that we'll have our hostages home. I think for so many people, they haven't yet even been able to process what's happened because they still have a sibling, a child, a loved one who's being held hostage.
What would you like to people to understand and know about how Manitoba's Jewish community might be reflecting today?
I want people to know that today is a hard day for your Jewish friends and your Jewish peers. It is the scariest day I think most of us have gone through as Jewish people, and praying that we'll ever go through in our lifetime. But I want people to know that supporting your Jewish peers today, acknowledging their suffering and making sure that they know you're here for them is not a political statement. It's not political to acknowledge what happened on the 7th and that there was a barbaric attack on civilians who were at a music festival or in their homes. And we're just planning to wake up and celebrate a Saturday with family. So I hope that they know that it's not political, it's humanity, and it's humane to do so.
Do you think that people are afraid that everything will be read as political, that somehow you couldn't support a Jewish friend, as you're saying, just to use your example, and also maybe politically your belief would be that Netanyahu and what's happening with the war in Gaza should end because of the humanitarian, what's been happening with people killed there? Do you think that people are too often not able to sort of live with both?
I don't just think that. I've been told that. I've had friends who are not Jewish tell me quietly that, that they'll quietly support me or that they quietly want to acknowledge things, but that they're fearful of doing that in a louder way, in a public way, or that they're just fearful of doing it at all. I think that when you talk about this conflict, when you talk about the Middle East, it can be a really intimidating and treacherous place to go. But knowing that, acknowledging what community members are going through, what your fellow Manitobans are going through, that's not political. That's just what we do to support each other.
Emily, Kalo, thank you very much for your time today and for starting the day on CBC with us. Really appreciate it today.
Thanks for having me.
Emily Kalo is an Israeli-born citizen. She lives here in Winnipeg. She's a student over at the University of Manitoba. Today, of course, the second anniversary of the October 7th attack in Israel.